So a lot of progressive commentators are beginning to focus on the differences between Sanders and Warren. I wanted to give my take on this. I think Bernie is a better pick because Bernie is good at delivering his agenda. His political calculations are great. He has much better policy proposals, and I have some trust issues with Warren. That's the short version. Now, before I crap on Warren's campaign, I want to mention that there's a decent chance right now that she will become the next nominee, the nominee for 2020. You could give me all the facts that you want about how Bernie is ahead in Iowa and California, et cetera, which is great. Don't get me wrong, but it's pretty early still. And so Warren does have momentum right now that Sanders doesn't have. You can't pretend that there's a 0% chance that Warren will be the next nominee. On top of that, Warren does have some good policy proposals. She has really good plans. I mean, I like Bernie Sanders' plans over hers, but there's one policy proposal that I like from Elizabeth Warren over Bernie Sanders, which we'll get to in a moment. But I mean, she's still good. She still has really good ideas. So I don't want to come across as this like anti-Warren commentator right now, especially considering she might be the next nominee, and I don't want to come across as a person who hates the one that I'm trying to promote, right? For that reason, let me give Warren some credit to start with before I get into the reasons why I like Bernie over Warren. She does come across strong against the establishment. She does do a really good job of that. And her voting history reflects that much better than any other candidate, with exception to Sanders. Do not get that out of context. Which we'll get to soon. We'll get to why Sanders is a little bit better voting record. She's not bad, though. On top of that, there is a policy that she supports that Bernie does not support. She wants to eliminate the filibuster. That's huge. Sanders really needs to get on board with this. If you haven't watched the John Oliver video on the filibuster, you need to stop watching this video and watch that and then come back to this. I don't care how much you love Sanders. If you don't have the filibuster, then it's going to be really hard to pass legislation effectively. There are so many hosts that pretend like this is not a big deal. It is. Again, I want to remind you that I support Sanders over Warren. But boy, this makes me like her a lot. This likes me like, that's one of those, it's up there with Medicare for all. I know a lot of you would say like, oh, that's blasphemy, right? You can't pass Medicare for all if you have the filibuster. Like, it's not going to happen. So I wish Sanders would get on board with this. Sanders is right now against getting rid of the filibuster because he's so distracted by the fact that it might allow future Republican administrations the ability to pass legislation. But here's my philosophy. Better to have a Congress that passes legislation regularly than a Congress that doesn't pass anything ever. You need a Congress that can pass regularly, not a Congress that can't pass anything. I don't care that Republicans might have a chance to pass some crazy legislation. Medicare for all will be nearly impossible to pass without first getting rid of the filibuster. So that's my credit to Warren. That's basically the one thing I like about Warren over Sanders. So why do I like Sanders over Warren? Let's start with delivery. Warren focuses way too much on political calculations like her identity and her history. Take a look at her ad and you'll get a sense of that.
I'm Elizabeth Warren, and I approve this message. When I was growing up in Oklahoma, all three of my brothers went off to the military. That was their ticket to the middle class. Now me, my dream was to be a teacher. I got a scholarship and went off to school, but dropped out and got married at 19. My second chance was a commuter college that cost $50 a semester. Today, there are fewer paths to America's middle class and even fewer second chances. Service members are targeted by predatory lenders. Students are crushed by debt. Families can't afford childcare. And after generations of discrimination, people of color face an even narrower path to opportunity. When we have a government that works for the rich and the powerful and leaves everyone else behind, it's corruption pure and simple. We must root it out and return our democracy to the people. And yes, I got a plan for that.
Maybe instead of saying that you have a plan for that, you put front and center what your plans are. What do you stand for? I mean, she laid out a bunch of issues, but she didn't lay out the plans. She just said, I have a plan for that. I mean, keep in mind, I know what she stands for, and I love many of her policy positions. I just think she could be a little wishy-washy with some of her policies. And I wish she could, deliver that message in her ad that what her policies are. She's much better than Beto O'Rourke or Mayor Pete. She's much better than that. But why? I don't know why I have to answer that question from that ad. Like, if you watch that ad alone, you could not answer why she's better than Beto O'Rourke or Mayor Pete Buttigieg. I don't know why I have to ask this question and have to answer it after watching an ad. That should be clear and simple. Like, oh, this is why Warren's better than, like, she got married at a young age. So did I. I got married at a young age. Does that make me really good for? And what if I say, like, I have a plan for that, and, like, there's all these problems, I have a plan for that? Like, that's not really good delivery of message. I should just say, like, well, the ad makes it clear that what Warren stands for. Like, that would be a good ad if it made clear what Warren stands for. But I can't say that. I can't say that that ad made it clear what Warren stands for. That ad was about Warren's life and how she stands up against the establishment. That's a cool story, bro, but I want details. Give me the details. I can make a better ad in 10 seconds. I would just list off, like, 3 positions. That would be a better ad than what she just had there. So Warren can't deliver sometimes. Take a look at this ad from Bernie Sanders, and you'll see a stark difference between the two just on delivery alone. Take a look.
Real change never takes place from the top on down, but always from the bottom on up.
Bernie Sanders' healthcare for all idea is gaining steam.
Free tuition, free college tuition, free tuition champion, Senator Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders added, the greatest threat to national security is climate change.
The future of our planet is at stake.
Sanders taking on Amazon.
Bernie Sanders has been consistent hammering about income inequality.
Nobody in America works 40 hours a week, should be living in poverty. So our economy is rigged. We have a campaign finance system which is corrupt.
Sanders leading the charge to stop war against Yemen.
The first time ever the Senate has voted to end an unauthorized war.
The fight against injustice has been the work of his life.
Jobs and education, not jails and incarceration. We are not going to retreat on women's rights.
Sanders pushing a bold agenda that includes protecting DACA recipients and comprehensive immigration reform.
You don't rip little children away from the arms of their mother.
A major announcement from Amazon. Amazon will raise its minimum wage to $15 an hour. 350,000 workers.
Thousands of workers at Disney World will get raises. It's a victory for Bernie Sanders.
It's a victory for all workers. Brothers and sisters, we have a lot of work in front of us. If we are prepared to stand together, there is no end to what the great people of our nation can accomplish.
See the difference? Bernie knows how to deliver his agenda in a short time period. It's not that hard either. That messaging is the only way you defeat Trump. Now, what if I told you that I was going to talk about Bernie's early life for the next 2 minutes? I'd lose 50% of my viewers right away. That would be some really boring stuff. Now, I think it's interesting, but people don't really care about that. People are more interested in your policy positions if you're going to be a politician. You don't want to hear that. You couldn't care less about his early life. Hell, there's a good chance you don't know about his early life, right? Like, there's a good chance that some of you don't know what he did before Congress. That's not a bad thing, though. Like, that's totally cool. Because that's not important. That's not what makes Bernie Sanders a good candidate for president. So, Bernie's good at delivering his policy positions. Now, yes, Warren and Sanders both have similar policy proposals, but there are some key differences that are important. The main one, I think, is Bernie's proposal to cancel medical debt. That's huge. That's huge. He also wants to get rid of all student loan debt. Now, I understand debt. I understand that Warren also wants to get rid of something like 75% of the debt or something. And she wants forgiveness to be based on your income. But Bernie's proposal is a matter of principle. Consider, for example, just total different thing. Yang's universal basic income proposal. He wants to give everyone $1,000 a month. Everyone, rich people, poor people, everyone. That's a proposal that's based on principle that everyone should have a little money every month, even the rich. Bernie's plan to get rid of all student debt is based on the belief that college should have been free all along, even for the rich. I like Bernie Sanders over Warren because of my trust for Bernie Sanders over Warren. Sanders does a really good job at being consistent. Warren is pretty wishy-washy sometimes. Warren voted to increase the military budget in 2017. Why? Why? Warren was asked by Emma Vigeland, like, why would you do that? And she totally fumbled. She was recently asked an obvious question about whether she would allow her vice president's son to be on some foreign board or something like that. I don't remember the details entirely, but she totally fumbled gratuitously to save herself from throwing shade on Biden. She can't attack Biden really well unless she's being attacked herself. She's a defender. She's not a defender. She plays D. She doesn't play. If you asked her if she supports having Hillary Clinton as a nominee over Sanders in 2016, she'd still say yes. Why? Political calculation. It was complete political calculation. I guarantee you she wanted to vote. She wanted to endorse Bernie Sanders, but total political calculation. Does she mean that? Probably not. She doesn't mean to do that, but she thinks you'd like her to say yes, and so she'd say yes. She's way too focused on delivering what she thinks her constituents want to hear, rather than being focused on a platform that is rooted in a political philosophy. She said she was a capitalist because she knows that if she doesn't say that, then she'll lose a lot of support. Then she would gain, at least. It's like everything she does is designed to be a political calculation. Bernie doesn't do that. He just talks about his beliefs. It just so happens that people stand behind his beliefs because they're good. So his way forward will be focused on his agenda, not his constituents. So you vote for Sanders because you know that Sanders is going to follow through because of his platform. You don't know if Warren is going to fumble for conservatives to attempt to gain support across the aisle. It's like she wants to please everyone, which is not bad, but that could lead to a contradictory platform. So I can't trust 100% that this is the real Warren, that this is her. I don't know if she's a computer that's trying to follow through with what people want, or is this her agenda? I'd rather vote for someone who's principled in something that most people support over someone who's looking for the right move to make next based off of what would be a good political calculation.